Hey everybody, it's Billy Williams. I appreciate you guys being here. Today I want to do a quick video about virtual assistants. And I want to go through the recommended virtual assistant training order. I know with staffing issues and everything that's going on, a lot of agencies are moving to a virtual assistant model or they're getting virtual assistant support. But the problem is they don't know how to take that virtual assistant and turn them into productive parts of the agency that generate revenue, that make everybody's life easier. They just bring on another body, but they're not sure what to do with that body. So today, I want to make sure that we're real clear on what the training order should be when you bring in a virtual assistant, okay? So you're not lost with that. So to get the most effective use of your virtual assistant, you must train them in an order that allows them to help generate new revenue for the agency, help with retention of current customers. It removes time-consuming admin tasks from licensed staff members, and it allows their role to become an important part of the overall operation of the agency. That way, you can just interchange or replace virtual assistants as you need to. Maybe you have one that works out, maybe you have one that doesn't work out, but it's not about the body, it's about the process, it's about the task, the role that you put them in. So this is what we recommend. We have 11 or 12 different things that we recommend you train your VA, and we have a specific train them to do, and we have a very specific order that we train them in. First, we learn agency standards. Then we teach them how to audit a policy for agency standards and policy weaknesses. Then we teach them how to complete the insurance review form. If you're an Inspire Nation member, you know what I'm talking about, the Inspire Nation insurance review form. Then we teach them how to create a task and assign that task in the agency management system. Next, we teach them to do a paper quote. Then we teach them how to quote in the agency's main quote engine or rater. If you're using PO Rate or EasyLink, something like that, we teach them how to complete a quote there. Notice we do the paper first, and then we go to the technology. Then we teach them to complete a quote in the agency's top 3 carrier rating sites. So if you're Travelers, Westfield, Hartford, Cincinnati, Safeco, whatever, we're going to teach them how to complete a quote, personal lines, commercial, depending on what you're writing, within those carrier sites. Next, we're going to teach them how to complete the 5 main accord forms that the agency prepares. Next, we're going to teach them how to do a certificate of insurance. Then we're going to teach them how to manage upcoming policy renewals, pull the audit, do an internal review, make sure they're aware of weaknesses, create tasks, stuff like that. And then we're going to teach them how to do the agencies, or how to manage the agency's policy termination and cancellation process. So by doing this order, I know that my VAs are maximizing their effectiveness in the agency, and they're making the agency money, and they're making everybody's life easier. So I'm going to take some time and go through each one of these so that you can better understand them. First, teach them the agency's minimum recommended standards. Each of you, each person that's part of Inspire Nation, each person that has heard me talk in the last 10, 15 years knows that we always go from our agency's minimum recommended coverage standards. It removes emotions. It gets everyone talking on the same level, same plane. So that's the very first thing I want to teach my VA, because I don't want them thinking task. I want them thinking insurance, okay? And so I teach them the minimum standards. Then I teach them how to go into a policy and look at the minimum standards versus what the customer has. Again, I want to teach them insurance, and to think insurance, not just think task. The third thing is we have our insurance review form. This is a merge field-based form where it pulls data out of the agency management system. So it shows side by side, these are the agency standards. This is what the customer has. Now my VA can look at that, right? I teach those first 3 things, because once I teach them these 3 things, everything else is much, much easier. The next thing I do is I teach them how to create a task in the agency management system. See, I don't need to teach them the entire agency management system. I don't need to spend 3 weeks trying to get them to learn every button and bell and push and tab. I don't need that. All I want to do is teach them how to create a task. Why? Because I already taught them how to review for policy weaknesses. Now I want them to take that review that they did and I want them to create a task. I want them to attach that review form and I want them to assign that task and the review form to a licensed salesperson, right? Or to a licensed team member. Why? Because now that licensed team member can take that work, that data, that task that VA did, and they can go and do things like call the customer, upgrade, upsell, make sure the customer is aware of their weaknesses, send out a decline coverage form, whatever they need to do. So again, when I'm teaching the agency management system, I'm not trying to teach them every bell and whistle. I'm simply teaching them how to create a task in the agency management system. All that other stuff will come over time. Next, I'm going to teach them how to complete a paper quote sheet first. Why? Because that's teaching them to look for all the information that they're eventually going to need for accord forms and for certificates of insurance and for carriers, things that carriers are asking for and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to teach them how to do a paper quote sheet first. Inspire Nation, if you just go in and type in quote in the search box, you'll be able to see the quote sheets that we provide for you. Next, I'm going to teach them how to go out to our main rater, take the information from the quote sheet and put it into the main rater, whether that's PO Rater, EasyLinks, whatever you're using, doesn't matter. We're going to teach them how to transfer that information into the quote, into the rater. Then I'm going to teach them how to take that same information from the paper quote sheet and go to the carrier website and quote on the top 3 carrier websites. Guys, don't get all caught up in this, but Billy, we quote 17 different carriers and they need to know this and they need to know that and they need, okay, got it. But let's get the basics down first. And the basics are, let's make sure that they are learning this piece first, right? If I can teach them how to do a Westfield quote, then doing a Safeco quote is a lot easier. If I can teach them how to do a Travelers quote, then I don't have a problem with a Hartford quote. So let's teach them our top carriers first, right? And then they'll be able to easily migrate that over to other carriers. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to teach them how to do accord forms. Accord forms are a natural part of our life in the independent agency world. It's also what absorbs a lot of time. A lot of our licensed staff member time is spent on accords. So I want that VA to learn how to do an accord form. Now, I strongly recommend that you use a portal-based tool, right? Something that automatically you can put it into that tool and it'll pre-fill all these different accord forms. You've got Indio, you've got WonderWrite, you got all these other things that are out here that you could use. But I recommend that we start with that. But even if you don't have that and they have to manually do the form, you want to teach them how to do an accord form. If you're an independent and you're doing commercial, you're probably going to look at a 125, a 126, a 130, a 131. If you're personal lines, you're going to look at different forms. So again, we've got an index. If you look at the bottom of this slide, you'll see active members can go to our website to see a full list of all the accord forms, but you know which ones you fill out anyway. But if you just type in accord in the search box, then you'll come up with that index of all the different accord forms. But we're teaching them to do that next. Now, let me spend a little time here. We teach them how to quote, right? Then we teach them how to do accord forms. Then we teach them how to do certificates of insurance. I don't teach them certificates of insurance before they know how to quote and before they know how to do an accord form. And the reason why is now the certificates make sense when they're filling them out because they do know how to quote. So they know what the person is asking for. They know what the job is asking for. They know what the carrier is asking for. They've done an accord form, so they know where the data goes. They have an understanding of the data. So that's why we teach them quoting, and then we teach them the accord forms before we teach the certificates of insurance. Next, we teach them how to do or how to manage the upcoming renewal process. For commercial, that's 120 to 150 days out. For personal lines, that's 60 days out. Our VAs are running the audits. Our VAs are doing the initial review, looking for the agency standards versus what the customer has. Our VAs are the ones creating the task inside of the agency management system, attaching the review form, and then assigning that task to a licensed team member. So now the licensed team member just goes in and validates and verifies what the VA found, and then the licensed team member can move on with that process of contacting the customer, sending out decline coverage forms, doing whatever they need to do. But the VA does 80% of the renewal process, right? Next is your cancellation termination process. It's the VA that runs the cancellation audit, or when we receive a cancellation or termination notice from the carrier, we send it to the VA. And then the VA does all the research for the reasons behind the policy cancellation or termination. They get all the data together. If it's a payment issue, then we normally have the VA. The VA is the one who actually reaches out by phone to remind the customer to make the payment. It's the VA that sends the pre-written email template saying we have a problem with your policy and payment issues. Please make sure you take care of this. It's the VA that sends out the business text message that says there's a problem with the payment with your policy. Please make sure you contact the agency or go into the portal and make your payment. It's the VA that does all that, okay? Because it's a payment. Check with your state. Every state is different. You know, if you're in Louisiana, it's different than if you're in Georgia, different than if you're in New York, but check with your state to see what they allow that to happen. But usually it's the VA that takes care of all that. If it's something that requires a licensed salesperson to take care of it, the VA still runs the report or looks at the information, puts it all together, and then the VA is the one who creates the task inside of the agency management system and sends that over to my licensed team member. Guys, if you will train in this order, you will get maximum benefit out of your virtual assistant. Again, teach them agency standards. Teach them how to audit a policy for agency standards. Learn to complete the Inspire Nation Insurance Review Form. Learn to create a task in the agency management system, attach a document to that task, and then reassign that task to a licensed sales producer or a licensed team member. Learn to complete a paper quote. Learn to complete a quote inside of the agency's rater. Learn to complete a quote inside of the top 3 carrier websites that you guys quote. Learn to complete the 5 main accord forms that the agency prepares for personal lines and for commercial. Learn to process certificates of insurance. Learn to manage upcoming policy renewals. Learn to manage the policy cancellation termination process. Independent agents, if you will train your VAs in this order, you will get these guys and gals making money for the agency. Well, let's go back over what you're going to do. You're going to help generate new revenue for the agency. You're going to help with the retention of customers. You're going to remove time-consuming tasks from the licensed staff members, and that role will become an important part of the overall agency operation, right? It'll become part of your culture, which means now I can change people in and out because I know what the tasks are that they're going to learn. I just wanted to put this together because I'm seeing all this VA and there are all these new companies that are popping up and all these agents are starting to switch to them, but they don't have a damn clue on how to maximize the virtual assistant. So I just taught you what you need to do to the order that you need to train them in to maximize your virtual assistant. This is Dr. Billy Williams, president of Inspire a Nation Business Mentoring.